Hey, everybody, welcome back once again. This is Mark Lawrence, and we're all set to go against the spread on the Final Four weekend of the NCAA basketball tournament. It's been quite a long ride here, but we are here, the Final Four this weekend, the championship game on Monday, and we're going to cover that from start to finish on our ATS podcast today. With that, I want to welcome in our co-hosts and our regulars, our experts per se, on the show, Jim Feist, the legend himself from Las Vegas. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. Just kind of like dreading what I'm looking forward. Not dreading. I'm loving what I'm looking forward to. I gotta do 3 months worth of work in 2 months and putting our football magazine together here soon. So
football.
Yeah. But 3 and 2 is about average. So I can find.
You're not talking about a playbook
magazine together. I'm sorry.
You're not talking about a playbook for the UFL, are you?
No, I'm talking about touch football, Andy.
Or flag football.
Flag football, yes, exactly. But anyway, Andy, how are you doing these days?
I'm doing fine. Looking forward to a very interesting Final Four beginning tomorrow. Well, as we get along, I'll have some information here to just talk about how interesting and unique it is. But nonetheless, it's been a nice college basketball season, and we still have the other two tournaments: the Crown tournament here in Vegas, and the NIT. The finals are set now, and then we put it away, and then we just deal with all the off-season information and the coaching carousel in college basketball.
The old Crown tournament. Nothing says postseason college basketball tournament like matchups of teams with losing records.
Yeah. That would be a little different if it was the Crown Royal tournament and the winning team gets like a case of liquor.
Yeah, you have to get liquored up to, I think, being a 10 is a 10 one of those games. But nonetheless, they are on the card. Greg DePalma, Prime Sports Network. How's things going for you during this NCAA tournament?
So far, so good. As a fan, that's for sure. Not sweating any of the games so far. I'm sure I'll sweat it out on Saturday night, late on Saturday night, for a really big matchup. Overall, quite a surprise, of course, with what happened with the UConn-Duke game. So now it looks like there'll be one seed in the championship and either a 2 or a 3. So we're only down to 2 1 seeds, and they're playing each other in the semifinals.
I'm just wondering, is there a beating finish in these amongst these 4 teams in these 2 games? Like we've seen, we're not going to probably see another UConn finish like we did. But, the question is, do both of these games have the potential to go down to the wire?
The line suggests they do.
You do?
That's the beautiful part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jim, you think the same way?
Yes. I mean, when you have a team like Connecticut just was one for 18 from 3-point range, and they still won the game. Imagine if Michigan or Arizona, who are not both number ones, have an off shooting night like that. And I mean, anything can happen. Illinois is the favorite in their game against Connecticut, and yet Connecticut has a higher seed. But Illinois has a lot of advantages. They have players from Europe. They have a guard that's much more talented and larger than most college point guards. He's 6'6", very talented young man. And anything can happen, especially Connecticut coming off that amazing win. I don't know. Is there some kind of letdown there? And I mean, I don't think that there's anybody should be favored in any of these games. I think they're all basically pick 'em.
As far as the letdown goes, I would think that there would be a letdown if they were playing 2 days later, as opposed to 4 or 5, actually almost 6 days later on Saturday. If I was Dan Hurley, after that buzzer beater on Sunday, I would have said, kids, go out, have a hell of a lot of fun tonight, get it out of your system, enjoy it, whoop it up and all that. Be at practice at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Let them enjoy it. Let them absorb the enthusiasm and the satisfaction of getting where they are. And now let's get back to business, as opposed to, okay, enjoy it for an hour, but be here in 2 hours, and we got to start planning for a game in 2 days.
Well, that's a perfect
I think they have
segue.
the chance, plenty of time to get over what letdown, which would have naturally been expected.
Leading to our thoughts here going into the tournament this weekend, one of the questions I'm going to ask the panel, but Jim hit on it first. We'll go right to that. Is UConn the most disrespected team in the Final Four? This is a team that's gone 69-18 in the Big Dance, going all the way back to 1991, 17-1 the last 18 games in the tournament. Greg, is UConn the most disrespected team in the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 teams, so I would say so. I was surprised that they were the dog. Yeah, I would have made them the favorite, not just because they're a 2 seed. I get Illinois is the favorite. They're in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has been clearly the best conference, proven even in this tournament. They had a big win over Houston, and then UConn's win was of the miraculous variety. In reality, they shouldn't be here. I get all that. But UConn has a legacy in recent years of winning championships, and Illinois doesn't. And I think Illinois, if you were going to make a favorite, I'd probably make UConn the favorite.
Jim, you alluded to the fact that maybe there might be a question mark to UConn about their mental coming into the game, just given the fact that they just knocked off Duke, a number 1 seed in the Elite 8 round. And I'm going to ask you this. Does the fact matter that teams who do just what UConn did, beat a number 1 seed in the Elite 8 round, they're just 14-20, straight up and against the spread in Final Four games? Is that a factor for you in looking at this basketball game? Do you feel there could be a potential letdown?
I think it's a factor, but I do think that Andy's point that it was 6 days ago and they had more time to, wasn't the next day or 2 days later, was excellent. Now, here's what I mean. I'm looking at this. I imagine different places opened at different numbers, but I'm looking at an opener of 1.5 Illinois. Now, I'm sure that there were some places opened at a pick 'em or 1, but now I'm seeing just on the one screen. I could open up other screens. The consensus now is 2 Illinois, South Point, Superbook, and Circa have all gone to 2. Some of the 1.5s are at 15, minus 15 or minus 20. So the money initially came in on Illinois, and it's still coming in on Illinois. So from a disrespect standpoint, yes. You got Hurley, the coach for Connecticut. He definitely has an advantage in this game, with all the experience he has at this level. But Illinois has looked very, very strong, and knocking off Houston in the Houston area the way they did, they were pretty damn impressive. They're big. They're a high-scoring club. They got advantages in height and stuff. And Connecticut, how did they get down by 19 to Duke? And then then on the other side of it, if you can go 1-18 and still come back and win the game, I mean, that's a lot of tenacity and that you have, and will eventually the pressure in the game. And so this is a very difficult game to figure out. There's so many angles you can look at.
Well, you got an Illinois, a team, Jim, as you mentioned, that is not only good and perhaps a tad underrated, and it was probably confirmed by the fact that they are a number 3 seed. But they're the only team in the tournament that's got here so far that's won and covered each of their 4 games inside the tournament. So they've been on this major roll of, per se, if you will. And I had to crack the database open just looking at that, knowing that what do teams do in these Final Four games when they've won and covered each of their 4 NCAA tournament games they get here? The answer is pretty damn good. They're 10-3-1 against the spread since 1990. That's what the chip that Illinois will take into this basketball game, which basically tells us you cannot anticipate a letdown here. This is a fact whether or not the other team is the better team and is going indeed to beat this team. I think it's going to be one heck of a basketball game. One question I got to ask you guys here also is this.
Well, let me give some thoughts on that as well, as far as disrespected. It's interesting because that's what makes both of these games so intriguing. Is UConn a number 2 seed and Illinois a number 3 seed, and the number 3 seed opens up as the favorite and remains the favorite to this point. This is only the 7th matchup in the final four round, in which a number 2 and a number 3 seed have met, which is, of course, the first time that a 2 and a 3 can meet, only in the final four, because that's when you can
The
have the 1-2,
bracketing, right.
1-2, etc. The results, what are interesting about the results, and again, we're going back to 1985 when the fields expanded to 64, is that the 2 and the 3 seed, they've split the 6 games 3-3. Okay. However, what's interesting, when the number 2 seed has won, the average margin in these games has been a surprising 13.0 points. And as if that's not enough, when the number 3 seed has won their 3 games, 9.7. So what handicaps has as a very competitive game,
right.
The results. Now, keep in mind, we're only talking about 6 results out of 40 years worth, but it's still surprising that the average number is that high in those final 4 game between a 2 and a 3. That really surprised me, and I would be surprised if those average numbers don't drop a bit. Based upon what we've seen out of these 2 teams. But as far as, disrespected, yeah, I guess you would have to say that UConn's the most disrespected. Number one, based upon the experience, based upon the fact that the team and the coach have won 2 of the last 3 NCAA tournaments, that they are the better seed. But again, and Greg brought it up, the success of the Big Ten all season, and especially in this tournament. In fact, just to give you an idea, through the first 4 rounds and the first 4 games of the tournament, the Big Ten teams are 19-7 straight up, 16-10 against the spread. And even that's a bit misleading, because 2 of the games of those 26 games sample size were 2 Big Tens facing each other, the Iowa-Nebraska and then the Iowa-Illinois. So you take out those numbers where you had to have 1 win and 1 loss, and instead of 19-7, they're 17-5 straight up and 14-8 against the spread. That's how dominant the Big Ten has been, not just this season where there's a discussion, was it the Big Ten, was it the SEC, was it the Big 12, but in this tournament, they have been far and away the best team. And maybe that had something to do with the thinking of making Illinois the favorite, combined with the fact that, yes, UConn won and they've got all the experience, but they had to overcome 19 points, and the only reason they did that and got the win is because of questionable coaching or player decision on that final inbounds play.
Well, that's a good point you bring up, Andy, because I was going to ask, what incentive would Illinois have, if none other than the fact that they are the number 3 seed? You can make a case for them being the most disrespected, because they're the lowest seed, or the lowest seed of the 4 teams that are here right now. But they are a Big Ten team, and with that Big Ten moniker, it carries a lot of weight, as you mentioned, how well the Big Ten has done in the conference or in the NCAA tournament thus far. Greg, do you feel that Illinois is a little bit disrespected, and do you have them on your dangerous watch list this weekend?
No, they're the one team out of the 4 that I'm not buying a national championship with. I'm just not. They, of course, can win it. They've got the talent. They've got the coaching. They only have to win 2 games. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just, if I'm a betting man, that's 4 out of 4. I mean, I'm not looking at them first, second, or third. So in that respect, I'm definitely maybe not giving them proper respect, but I think I am. I mean, there's only so much respect I'm willing to give them. I mean, we're talking about the Final Four now. I just, if you look at it, yeah, they had a really good win against Houston. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm watching that game and I was like, what's Houston doing? Just like Houston looked like it wasn't the team we've seen all year. And we've seen that from Duke in the second half, UConn in the first half. We saw it actually from Michigan in the first half against Alabama. Just every one of these teams, Arizona down by 7 to Purdue in the first half. Every team that's been here has had one of those types of lulls. Illinois hasn't. But Illinois then was able to just, go wire to wire with Houston. I don't know. It was weird. And then to beat Iowa, to get there, that's like for me, it's like Michigan beating Tennessee. It doesn't prove anything. Everybody would have preferred to have seen Iowa State and Michigan, but Jefferson was out. And I definitely think that was the major reason you didn't see Iowa State against Michigan in the final. So, I still think it's going to be hard to see Illinois win a national championship. Not that they can't do it, but I still think they're 4 out of 4.
I'm going to
For what
run
it's
by.
worth,
Go
Illinois
ahead, Amy.
Illinois lost by double digits to both UConn and Michigan this year. The Michigan game was at home. The UConn game was around Thanksgiving at Madison Square Garden. So they've had double-digit losses. I'm not concerned so much about the first one to UConn. That's still early in the season, but at home against Michigan late in the regular season, maybe it does show a significant difference. Although I think Illinois certainly can win, but considering they played two of the three teams that they could potentially face in the tournament and did not have success, it's one thing if they lost, by 3 points or 4 points to either of them, but they lost by double digits to both.
Well, here's the body of work that what they've done so far to get here, guys. As far as scoring, offense and defense is concerned, Michigan, the number one scoring offense here, 95.3 points a game in the tournament, 72.8 on defense, the worst. Number two, Arizona, 89.5 on offense and 69.0 on defense. Number three, Illinois, 79.3 offense, 59.8 defense, the best. And UConn, number four, 73.8 and 65.8. So, Jim, let me ask you this question. With those numbers that they're bringing into the Final Four this weekend, what is more important, do you think, to cut down the nets, a team's offense or a team's defense at this stage of the season or the tournament?
Well, I think we.
Or is it a matter of style between the teams they're playing?
The coaches are good, and they wouldn't be here if the coaches weren't good. There might be a coaching edge here or there. Player size makes a difference, obviously, because it is free throw shooting makes a difference. 3-point shooting, which is the most fickle stat in basketball, is unpredictable. Basically, you can be 1-18 and then 5 out of 6 down the stretch, which is what Connecticut did. And so you never know. It's kind of like throwing dice. You just never know what you're going to get out of it. So we don't know. But the most dependable stat, I feel, is defense, because that's the one thing. If you play hard defense and you know what you're doing, and I believe some of these teams are very good at that, that's very consistent. You don't have to worry about the ball going in the hoop. You just play hard defense and make it difficult on your opponent. The team that does that the best, I feel, is the team that's going to win. So who is the team that does that the best out of these four teams?
Well, it's Illinois currently playing the best defense in the tournament. The question then is, Michigan's playing the worst of the four teams. Can their offense make up for the deficiency for the defense this particular weekend? That's the question coming into this
let me
weekend.
give you some numbers, Mark, on this, because I like to look at opposing field goal percentage, which is a good measure of defensive ability. These four teams are outstanding. Okay, of the four, Michigan 38.1% against, Arizona 39.1% against, UConn 40.2% against, and Illinois 40.9% against. Those are outstanding numbers. I don't know what the average number is, but I would say the average shooting percentage is probably somewhere between 46 and 48% overall.
And let me give you a all-time historical trend that is right now 100% or 0%, the way you want to look at it. Keep in mind, Illinois lost their first conference tournament game. No team has ever won the national championship losing their first conference championship game.
Let me mention to you this, Mark, also. You may have the answer in front of you because you've been bringing it up every week, and that is that the ultimate winner of the tournament is what? Top 20, top 25 in Ken Pom defensive efficiency?
Yeah, top 22, right.
Yeah, where do these four teams rank? I don't know if all of them are in that group.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had that in charts that we've done before in the past, and I didn't really, I guess, check these boxes to see if they all four deserve to be here. I'm wondering a little bit about Illinois, though. I don't know if they were in the Ken Pom top 22 offensive and defensive efficiencies. I can look that up real quick while we're doing just this. But you mentioned here, Greg, about no team has ever cut down the nets in this tournament that lost their first conference tournament game. there's a real unique trend.
By the way, I'm looking. It shows all 4 of them are, except Illinois is number 20 versus Michigan number 1, Arizona number 2, and UConn number 9.
Okay, so all 4 check the.
Let's look at the short end of it, though. Let's look at maybe the last 10 or 12 games, or against the certain strength of schedule, instead of the overall 30-some games of these teams have played.
Well, that's a great point. You like to do that in football, especially when it gets to be playoff time. You like to analyze their second half stats as opposed to their season long stats, because a lot of those season long stats are watered down.
Yeah, that is then, and this is now.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. So, which you're not putting that team on there that played so well in weeks 2, 3, and 4. You're putting the team that played well in weeks 16, 17, and 18.
You had 6 teams that you had as top, and I don't know where you got. That was Houston, St. John's, Nebraska, Duke, Illinois, and Arizona last week when you gave that out.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are there, Illinois and Arizona. The others are not.
Were we talking defensive field goal percentage?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or defensive rating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Defensive efficiency, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, we're picking at this is what I feel about these 4 teams is I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think any one of these 4 teams can win it. You're talking about a 1-game elimination.
Yep. You're
not talking about a series like, in baseball where you're talking 3 out of 4, or, got to win 4 out of 7 games or something like that. This is 1 game, and all of these teams are capable of winning this whole thing. 1 game. I mean, would you bet your life on Michigan against Illinois? If it's 1 game, would you put everything you own on that game? No, I wouldn't do that. I don't think there's enough edge. There's no real outstanding at this point in time. You can make a case for every team. Now, granted, somebody's going to be the favorite, but I could see a lot of crazy things happening here. And plus, there's always the possibility of an injury. So,
yeah, that's true. It's unforeseen for sure, and if it happens, it kind of tears apart a lot of the conversation for sure.
I think you'd have to say that of the 4 teams, and you look at the entire season as a whole, Michigan has probably been the most dominant of the teams as far as their ability to win. I mean, they win by early in the season, they defeat Gonzaga by 40, and last week they defeat Tennessee by 30. I mean, and in between they had a lot of huge wins. I think Arizona has been the most consistent team throughout the season. What are they now? Just 2 losses on the season. Michigan's got 3. Illinois has probably been more of the surprise team. In fact, I think they opened up with odds when they first came out of like 100-1 before the season started. I think Michigan was like 75-1. This is, I think, at the end of last year before the season started. And UConn is the most experienced team of the 4 when it comes to postseason. So to Jim's point, I think it's clear that any of these 4 teams can win. And I think the only thing that would be surprising, although we often see these kind of surprises, is if any of the 3 games coming up are, one-sided 15 points or more decision.
It all goes, I think, to what Jim said. Any of these 4 teams can win this tournament. Yep. And if you were a defense attorney for each of these 4 teams and pleading your case to the jury, you could do so with each team. You can bring out the best of what it is they do. Look at the experience UConn has and Danny Hurley. I mean, you can't refute that. They've been here. They've done that. They continue to keep doing it, yet they're an underdog. You have to look hard and long at UConn for some reason like that. Also, the other point I want to bring out here is when you get down to, you said before, what do you want working for you, Jim, in the second half stage of the season? It's the deeper you go into a tournament or a playoff, what do you want to bring to the table? What thing can you most statistically want to have in your favor if you could guarantee any one thing from the statistics? My answer would be defense.
I agree with that.
Yep.
And before in the past, I mean, I don't need to tell you how well this worked, but I love to chart the scoring within the tournaments as I keep reporting on here. But there have been numerous times where into the Final 4, one team has had the best offense and the best defense, and they didn't even come close to losing the tournament because it showed on both sides of the ball. Neither of these four teams do that here because Michigan's defense is a little bit lacking, and maybe arguably Illinois' offense isn't close to Michigan's. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd say, give me some defensive numbers here. That's what I would look at first and foremost. Greg, how do you look at this?
Well, we talked about it last week. I'm not really concerned with Michigan's defensive metrics in this tournament because they've won easy games, and I don't think it really matters. You know, if they had to buckle down and if they had to play tough defense, they're capable. They've been one of the top defensive teams all season.
That's an excellent point,
Yep.
Greg, because they have such a big lead in so many games. They're going to be a little lax on defense. So that's worse.
Which also means they haven't been tested in a situation that's likely to come up. You know, like unlike UConn, which was tested, even though they shouldn't have been because they had no right coming back from or being down 19 points. So, you know, it's a question of, and I've mentioned it before, that often we see the winner of the tournament having to go through at least one very, very difficult game. We saw UConn do it last week. I don't know that I think Illinois may have been in one of the closer games, even though they are unbeaten against the spread. So, you know, but at this level, does that really matter that you haven't been tested? We don't know until we see what happens in such a situation.
Let me ask this question. The guard, I mean, we all at some level know, played some basketball. We know that when guard play, that's the one person on the floor that has control of the offense from
like a quarterback in football, right?
Correct. Guard play has been dominant in a lot of tournaments. They do have the ball. If they can handle it and not turn it over, if they can shoot their free throws, who would you rank as the best guard or the top? Rank the four best guards. I'll tell you one thing: the Illinois guard, I can't remember his name.
Pete, they don't take a backseat to too many teams, the Arizona guards. They're young, but they're good.
The Illinois guard is 6'6". That's a big guard for college basketball, and he's damn good.
It's a Magic Johnson guard, is what that is.
Yeah, Kylan Boswell and Elliot Cadeau are the two top point guards in the Final Four. And, I mean, you can look at Cadeau. I mean, his assist to turnover
Which
ratio.
teams are you talking there on with, Greg?
Cadeau is for Michigan, and Boswell is for Illinois.
Okay.
And what makes Boswell really good is also he's like an elite defender. What makes Cadeau really good is his assist to turnover ratio is just outstanding. You know, he's one of these guys that's like 29-1. You know, and that's not an exaggeration.
And he's got a good teammate in Wagler.
Yeah, and the thing, though, is you mentioned Wagler, Andy, with Illinois. Let's keep in mind, too, Illinois, Wagler, maybe their best scorer, true freshman. Arizona, 3 of their top players, true freshmen. That is going to come into, I think, play here a little bit. UConn, not so much. They've got some good veteran leadership. Michigan has some good veteran leadership. It's kind of why I like both teams to win their games.
Couldn't you say that the true freshman had an issue in the Duke collapse at the very last moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Losers?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. So that's why, you get these freshmen that are going to have to come up big, especially for Arizona. See, Illinois has the one guy. Every team has got a freshman. But Arizona, their team is basically built. Half of their team is built on true freshmen. And they're also a one-dimensional team, Arizona. They're very good because they're very big and they're very physical and they're very tough and nobody can really match up with that. But they're not a very good three-point shooting team. And so there are some issues on that side. So what can beat Arizona is going to have to be a team like Michigan that has the size to counter. UConn has size as well. Illinois has got some size. So Arizona now is going to, if they're going to win a national championship, they're going to have to go up against teams now that can match up with them with good, big, talented players that they normally can steamroll over, including Purdue. I mean, Purdue had one kid that kid Clough. That was it. Everything else, Purdue, they were all guards. That's pretty much why they were able to wear them down. But they're not going to be able to wear down any of these teams in this Final Four.
So are you saying here, Greg, that Arizona can be the team that beats Arizona? Maybe if they get cold from outside the arc and they can't find any threes.
I don't think they're going to try many threes.
It's
I
not their
think
game.
they know better.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, they'll try
How
them.
did they get by going to the bucket? I mean, that tall what's it, Mara or something for Michigan?
For Michigan, yeah.
He is a beast around the basket defensively.
Yeah, Michigan's got the size and the skill to counter.
As does Illinois. Aren't they the tallest team in the country? So
Yeah.
Arizona would have to get by two such teams.
Yep.
Arizona, of course, has its length as well. So that's what makes these matchups so compelling.
So Michigan and Illinois have size and they have guard play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again, Arizona doesn't shoot the three very well.
None of these teams really do.
And they're at 4th of 4. And that's just not their game anyway, and that's fine. Why should they shoot from three? They don't need to.
Who is the best 3-point shooting team?
Out of these three?
4.
Out of these 4, I mean. Let's see. I'd have to take a look.
Both Michigan and Arizona are slightly better than Illinois and Connecticut. The best of them is 36.2%. That's Arizona. The worst of them is 34.7%, which is Illinois. That's like a 1.5% difference. That's not significant.
And UConn is not winning another game in this tournament if they shoot like that.
Yeah.
So they not that we would expect them to shoot like that again. So, they got away with it.
Let's look at the other side of it. Who depends more on the 3-point shot?
Well, I would have to. I don't think any of them really do. I would probably say, yeah, I don't think any of them do. This is not like, hey, we have to shoot the three, because they're all big teams. Even UConn, even they have both Caravan and Terrace Reed, of course, who's having a phenomenal tournament. So I don't really think you're looking at one of those situations where, oh man, if these guys aren't shooting a three, they have no chance. So I mean, UConn was they just proved it themselves. They were able to win without the three. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be completely necessary, and I think that's good for the game. I think that's great. I think we're going to see much better basketball in the Final Four instead of just seeing players chuck up threes.
So there have been only 3 matchups in the history of the NCAA tournament where teams from the same conference played to cut down the nets. What's the realistic possibility of Illinois facing Michigan here this year to make it 4-4? Andy, what's your thought on that?
I would say, considering the success of the Big Ten overall, aside from Illinois and Michigan in this tournament, the other 8 teams or 7 teams that got invited have generally had pretty good success. I would say that it's not a long shot. I don't know what the odds would be. I know there are some places that, and I'll see if I can find what they are, that have the exacta up. In other words, Michigan over Illinois, Michigan over UConn.
Can you find that, Greg? What the pairing odds would be for the championship game?
What would that be?
What would the pairing?
I think I saw the lines that Michigan and
the
Arizona.
Odds.
Yes.
What are we going to say?
Not the point spread. Yeah, the exacta odds.
I'll take a look.
Yeah, because I think I heard that Michigan would be, I think, 4.5 over, I think UConn, and 6.5 over Illinois, and that Arizona would be 3.5, 5.5 or something.
But I'm more concerned about, if I wanted to play right now, Michigan and Illinois to be in the championship, what price would I be getting to do that?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know that price, but
well, I would think it would be
there.
the just to play in the championship, not to win the championship, for them to meet up.
Correct.
Yeah, a parlay of the Michigan money line and the
there it
Illinois
is
money
right
line.
there. Hypothetical national champion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arizona 5.5 over
over
Connecticut.
UConn.
Michigan 4.5 over Illinois. Arizona 4.5 over Illinois. Michigan 5.5
over UConn. Yeah.
So those are
But
the four.
the odds would be the parlay of the money line of in the first game of the money line of Michigan over Arizona and Illinois over UConn.
I think Illinois has a much better chance of winning the championship if they don't play Michigan. I think they could be, especially because Arizona would again have 3 freshmen playing in a national championship game. I just don't think Illinois can beat Michigan. And we got to keep in mind too, we all have given Big Ten their due. They're the best conference in college basketball this year. So let's keep in mind, Michigan destroyed the conference this year by 4 games. 4 games they beat the Big Ten by, the best conference in college basketball. And Illinois is in that conference.
I don't think there's any question that Michigan's the best team, but based on a full season. Strength of schedule. We're talking about statistics all around here. What's the strength of schedule of these 4 teams for the year and for, say, the last 10 games?
We could probably bring those up on the Pomeroy report again with the rankings. Andy, do you have them there?
Strength of schedule right here.
Yeah, it's on the screen that you had there, but it's in the far right-hand columns.
Yep, there you go. You look at their net rankings. Michigan is the best. Arizona second. And it looks to be.
Yeah. UConn 26 because they play in the Big East.
Illinois and Connecticut, right. So more or less as they're priced. That's basically what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Guys, we got some viewers that have chimed in here with a couple of good observations and comments. I want to share them with you. First of all, our buddy John Putnam, who's a longtime listener and Playbook subscriber, he says, "Hello, guys. On to the Final Four weekend. It's starting to get warm here in the South, just like his picks." Well, John, email me your picks, okay? And I'll compare those to how warm it is down here in Miami, okay?
And thank you, John. The Chipper Show was fun to do this week. Thank you.
Super.
Yeah,
Super
Mark,
nice.
to answer your question about the odds, Illinois is minus 135 money line against UConn, and Michigan is minus 125 money line against Arizona. If you did a $100 parlay, because obviously if it's Illinois winning and Michigan winning, that's your Final Four matchup, a $100 wager would pay back $213 roughly in profit. So it's basically a little bit over 2-to-1 plus a little bit over plus 200 for the Final Four matchup to be Illinois, Michigan.
Trend Trackers answers one of our questions from before. Also, guys, it was Texas Tech that made it to the championship game after losing its first conference tournament game. They lost to Virginia. That was back in 2019. So it's been a little bit of while between drinks of water for that happening, and that being the case for Illinois if it were to be that way this year. Let me share with our listeners out there before we put the wraps in the show here. I broke down from our Playbook preview, March Madness guides and our Sweet 16 guides, the top trends that you might want to keep an eye on in both the Final Four round and the NCAA tournament championship game. And I want to share these with our listeners here before I turn it back over to the guys. Inside of the Final Four round, which we'll be heading into this weekend, number 2 seeds, 3-8-1 to the spread. That's UConn. Number 3 seeds, 7-1 to the spread, the last 8. That's Illinois. A team playing with same season revenge is just 2-12 straight up and 3-11 to the spread in Final Four games. That would work against Illinois in that particular game. From the conferences, the Big East teams have done real well. They're 8-1 to the spread. That's UConn, and UConn's probably the biggest contributor to that along the way. The Big Ten favorites have done really well, 7-1 to the spread in the Final Four games, and Big 12 teams have also chipped in at 4-1 to the spread. And in case you're wondering, the teams arriving to the Final Four that upset a number 1 seed in the Elite 8 round, they're just 14-20 straight up and against the spread, as I mentioned. If they're a number 2 or lower seed, they're 6-14 to the spread. That's Connecticut. And finally, the team that won and covered each of its 4 previous conference tournament games, which I hit on earlier, they're 10-3-1 to the spread. That's Illinois.
Mark, there was one question that you rose, and I said that I thought it could be unanimous. The question was, last week, the most vulnerable number 1 seed was Duke, and you said, are they the biggest disappointment of the tournament? And I said, no, the biggest disappointment of the tournament would have to be Florida, which didn't even make it past the first weekend, as disappointing as Duke was. But Florida, certainly, I think, I'd find it hard-pressed to find a team more disappointing than Florida going out in the round of 32.
I would have to agree with you. I think Duke's right on their heels, but like you say, as early as they went out, Andy, they haven't been in the discussion here for the past couple of weeks because they checked out much too early for Florida.
Now, by the way, if it's any consolation to Florida, last year I believe they bounced two-time defending champion UConn out in the round of 32.
Wow.
Well, to answer your question on 3-point percentage, Michigan and Arizona, those are the top two. Illinois and UConn are outside the top 100 this year in 3-point percentage.
Another thing about UConn, the last two times, I was going to say the last two times that Connecticut knocked Duke out of the NCAA tournament, which was 1999 and 2004, UConn went on to win the national championship. You know, when you think of blue bloods in college basketball history, you think of UCLA, you think Kentucky, you think Kansas, you think Duke, you think North Carolina. How about the fact that since 1999, UConn has won 6 NCAA tournaments? That's pretty impressive, and I think it would fool most people. And they've also done it twice as a number 1 seed. They've done it once as a 2, once as a 3, once as a 4, and once as a 7. That's
so
pretty
part
amazing.
of that 17-1 run they're on, Andy. It's unbelievable. Top championship game trends when we roll around to Monday, guys. Favorites of more than 2 points are 9 and 3 to the spread. It has always been kind of a chalky thing for favorites in the NCAA championship game. Number 3 dogs are just 1 and 5. That would be Illinois if they arrive there. Big East teams do rather well. That's UConn, 9 and 1 to the spread. And it's largely, again, because it's been UConn padding those numbers in the past. Big 12 teams.
By the way, UConn won, I think, the first 4 of their 6 championships as a member of a different conference. I think they've only been in the Big East since like 2014. So maybe it's the first 3 of those titles have been as members of, I think, the American Athletic Conference or one of the others in that genre.
Wherever they came from. Yeah. Big 12 teams, 1 and 5 to the spread, they struggle. Big 10 teams, 1 and 7 to the spread, they struggle. But here's the stat that drops my jaw the most in the championship round. Big 10 underdogs since 1990, as far back as my database goes, there have been 9 of them that have been in the championship game as underdogs, and all 9 lost the game and the spread by an average of 12 points a game.
Which means that if it's Illinois and Michigan, unless the game's a pick'em, that's going to change to 1 in 10.
Well, it won't be a pick'em.
No, because both of them can't be dogs. Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why it can't be a pick'em.
Yeah, that would only work if Illinois got there against Arizona. Wins,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Illinois would have to be the guy to get there, is what he would have to, because he'd be the dog to either. I think whoever gets there, if it's
Michigan or Michigan. Arizona. Yeah.
Right. Michigan, Arizona, they'd be the dog for sure against.
Well, we just checked those lines. It'd be what, either 4.5 or 5.5, at least based upon the lines for Monday as they exist right now, the potential matchups.
It's incredible that we have two games that the spreads are so low that you can really, the spreads are telling you these games are just like a flip of the coin for the odds maker. They can't even make the spreads big enough to even matter.
I mentioned on a couple of shows that maybe the way to approach betting this game is exclusively in-game wagering. See how the game starts out. You might actually have an opportunity, considering these spreads. You could, at various points, if each team goes on a run, you could have money line dog with money line dog for both teams.
I totally agree, Andy. That might be the right answer here, but that doesn't help our clients that don't bet live. That's the problem.
All right, guys, we're going to exit stage left here from the show. And before we do, we have to know who's going to cut down the nets on Monday. Jim, your choice.
I'm gonna say the best team so far this year has been Michigan. I'll go with Michigan to win it.
Andy?
My original forecast before we started this whole thing was St. John's over Michigan. And, well, I do have a Big East team in there now. We have UConn, so it could be UConn against Michigan. As much as I think Michigan and Arizona have been the 2 best teams all season. It's unfortunate to a certain extent that they have to meet in the semifinals because I could see the winner of that game will be favored, obviously, by 3 or more, 4 or more possibly. But how can you bet against UConn in this situation, given that extremely long? So I will say that Michigan will win but UConn will cover. Or if it's Michigan, I'm going to say Michigan over UConn, with UConn covering and Michigan winning. A rare situation where the points will matter in a championship game.
Good call. Greg, who do you think we're going to be watching climbing the ladder?
Michigan over UConn.
Michigan over UConn. A lot of Michigans, some UConns here. I'm going to be alone on an island here, guys, again, as I usually am.
What island is that?
It's the island of you're all alone and there's nobody else agreeing with you.
The all alone island.
I'm usually with you, Mark. I think we were both on St. John's last week, so I was right there with you.
Right. But I like Arizona to beat Michigan on Saturday. And if I'm correct, okay, that would then, for me, put Michigan into the championship game, and I would have Arizona climbing the ladder. I think Arizona wins the game. And I think they're going to
Arizona and Michigan play Saturday.
Arizona and Michigan playing Saturday for the championship game. I've got Arizona winning the championship.
Over?
I would say over Illinois, and that's really tough to say because UConn brings all these tremendous numbers in history. And Jim says, how can you bet against Connecticut? Well, it's really difficult to do, but I think Illinois is not getting a lot of love here. The number 3 seed says one part of it too. Number 2, they're playing the best defense of any team in the tournament here right now. So I'm going to put Arizona. I mean,
bottom line is, if you're just taking a look at the whole season, there is no question Illinois is a better team than UConn. It's just that UConn has that pedigree, as we just saw last week in the tournament, that you go, well, I can't bet against them because
the pedigree was not that they won the game. The pedigree was that they overcame a 19-point deficit to be in position to win the game.
Yeah, it's just so hard to bet against them. But yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think Illinois is the better team. So
yeah. Can I bring up another subject?
Yes.
What about the totals? What do you think?
Yeah, I was looking at the total on my first thought is Illinois UConn under, but that number comes so close to where it should be. I think it's correct. The more interesting one is the Arizona-Michigan game because both teams have good inside play, which could mean some foul trouble for both teams and foul opportunities in late game situations. The problem with that is the total is about 157 and a half. So I think a lot of it will have to, your pregame bet on that might have to depend upon who the officials are. Are they going to call a tight game in which game you may see a lot of free throws attempted by all 4 teams are very good at free throw shooting, by the way. They're all well in excess of 70%. But will they call a tight game, in which case you may have a higher scoring game because of all the foul shots that will be taken, not necessarily at the end of the game, but if it's going to be a called tight game, it could be in the first half as well, the first 10 minutes of each half. So that's it. If the officials are guys who let them play, well, then maybe that 157 and a half is a little bit too high.
And what's the total, guys, on the Illinois-Connecticut game?
I think it's 139 and a half, 140.
Okay. It's all defense that wins these championships. I lean under in the Illinois-Connecticut game. You got Connecticut trying to regroup after that tremendous comeback win. Their feet might not touch the court until about 10 minutes into the game.
Well, I think you showed that in the 4 comparisons, the 2 highest scoring teams, Michigan and Arizona, combined for, 166.1 and Arizona 158.5 in their 4 games so far, while the 2 teams in the first game, the Illinois-UConn game, are at 139.1 and 139.6. Which is right on the total for that one, and the other 2 are right around the total. The Michigan total is in the 160s. So both matchups figure to be the Illinois-UConn game. Their route through the tournament suggests under or right at the number, but certainly the lower scoring of the 2 games by far. And there's about that 18-point difference in Michigan-Arizona. And again, because of the style of play and the makeup of the team, suggests it'll be a high-scoring game. But again, I think more importantly in that Michigan-Arizona game, what kind of officials do we get? Do they call them tight or do they let them play?
Well, guys, I've got to get out of here, and I'll say this, that DBK said that island that I'm on is Gilligan's Island. And Marianne's calling right now. So that's where I'll be this weekend on Gilligan's Island watching the games.
Well, you have fun.
I will do that. And
Good luck to
come
all
back.
of us, and good luck
We'll
to
be
all
back-
of our listeners and
We'll be
viewers.
back next week, guys, and we'll preview a little bit of the NBA and what's going to be coming up in the playoffs. But until then, I want to make sure everybody enjoys what we're having on tap this weekend, Saturday and Monday both. For our cast of experts here on the show, Jim Feist from Vegas, Andy Isco from Vegas, and Greg DePalma, our producer extraordinaire. This is Mark Lawrence, reminding you to always remember to bet with your head